If you're tuning in today, it's because you are a seeker. You are someone who's read the books. Perhaps you've listened to the podcasts. Maybe you've learned some modalities. Perhaps you work with people. You may have been on this journey for a very long time, or you could be brand new to it. But the bottom line is that you are still searching. And I want to ask you a question. What if the reason that you're still searching isn't because you don't have enough information? It's because you don't have a relationship with your own truth. Welcome. My name is Anna Hendricks. I am a spiritual guide, teacher, and I work within higher dimensional frameworks of wisdom that allow people to see their lives with greater clarity, context, and understanding so that they can heal, fall in love with themselves, and ultimately return to who they are. So please follow, subscribe, if you want to learn more about the Akashic Records, self-love, and so much more. Today, we are diving into the topic of you don't need more answers, you need access. And this is a very important topic, one that is honestly nestled in just about everything that I create and has been perhaps since the beginning of this journey in my work as a spiritual guide, but it has always been a value of mine since I can possibly remember. When I look at the work that I do every day, it's important to know that self-trust and the lack of it is a huge topic in my work. In fact, it is a huge problem in today's world. We were not taught how to trust ourselves, how to have a relationship with ourselves, or to listen to our intuition. We were taught to look outside of ourselves from the earliest of days for answers, for guidance, for solutions. And that has created this reliance on information. One of the reasons we find ourselves in the midst of this information age, right? So whether it's religion or family, the internet, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is we have become very accustomed to looking outside of ourselves instead of tuning in when it comes to life, when it comes to finding what it is that we need in our everyday. And look, if this is you, first of all, it's not about shame. It's about understanding and it's about awareness. I was just the same. Before I came to the work that I'm doing now, I grew up studying. I was born into this lifetime knowing God. And when I'm obsessed with something, I'm really obsessed with it. I'm a first line in human design. And I got to tell you, sometimes I feel like there's not enough information for me in this world, right? So I read all of the books. I did the trainings. I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars. I listened to podcasts. I had teachers and coaches and the whole nine yards, right? I've done all the things. And every single one served me in one way or another. But eventually, I realized something. I was just collecting information. I was collecting answers. I was collecting external guidance, if you will. I was not developing access within myself. And this distinction is huge. We're going to be talking today about the difference between information and access so that you can really evaluate where you're at and evaluate what it is that you've been spending your time doing. Because one of these paths doesn't really lead anywhere. It's kind of fun. There's some interesting things along the way. But the other one leads to building an incredible relationship with ourselves, who we are, and the divinity that is within. So to kind of kick things off, I want to make sure you understand the difference between information access. So I've got some examples for you, okay? So information is someone else's experience. Access is your experience. Information is temporary certainty. Access is having an ongoing relationship with yourself, with God. And if you're brand new to my work, know that God for me is love. God is not tied to religion, philosophy, or anything else. It is love. It is that simple and it is that profound. All right. So again, information is consumption. Access is conversation. Last one, information is about learning. Access is about living. Ultimately, what's important to understand is that information eventually comes to an end. but access never does. And I want you to think about this for a minute and really ask yourself these questions. You know, how many podcasts have you listened to about boundaries or relationships or spirituality? How many books have you read about self-love? How many times, like, have you Googled for an answer? Or how many readings have you had by psychics, by astrologers, by whomever, right? How many times have you asked someone else, what do you think I should do? And yet, how often do you still feel uncertain in your everyday life? And I'm going to ask you that again because it's a really important question. You've done all of these things. You spend all of this time, money, resource, whatever the case may be. But how often do you still feel uncertain in your life? And I want you to know it's not because you've done anything wrong, right? It's simply that, first of all, this is what we were taught to do, to look outside of ourselves, to depend on our exterior world. But information was never meant to replace the relationship that you have with yourself or that you are building with God. And those are two huge different things, right? Information is surface. Access is about depth. It's about your heart space. It's about getting in. It's about becoming embodied in who you are, right? And since the beginning of my work as a spiritual guide, I've told my audience, my clients, I mean, basically everyone, I say it pretty often. My ego loves being the source of information for other people. But honestly, I know that I have no real interest in that in the long term, that is not what I'm here to do. It's not what I'm meant to do, right? I don't want people becoming dependent on me. I don't want people thinking I have the answers because I don't. I have a lot of wisdom because I've lived a lot and I'm also ancient in my soul. I also have a really strong relationship with God. I have a strong relationship with the Akashic Records, with my own truth. And when I share things, I share them from my perspective. But what I really want for you is for you to have your own, for you to have your own relationship with yourself. So let's go back to this idea of information versus access, because I want to clarify even more what access means. Okay. Access isn't about information. What it is knowing where to go when life falls apart, knowing how to hear yourself, having a place where you can ask difficult questions, feeling connected instead of abandoned, living with confidence that you can receive guidance whenever you need it. Because access truly is about building a relationship with yourself, a relationship with divine, with God. It's not an event. It's not more information, and it's definitely not surface. There's a huge difference with seeking answers and building the capacity to receive truth. And what I mean by that is your truth, because ultimately your truth is what is ultimate in your life. And it's meant to be that, right? But so many of us don't have that connection because, again, we weren't taught to have that within ourselves. Yet in these times, it is paramount for a number of different reasons. We have more and more information coming at us now than we ever have before. And it's really easy to get caught up in it. It's really easy to get swept up in it, right? But these are not the same things. When we become reliant on information, it creates dependence. But when we build access within our lives, that actually creates freedom. And I wish this was talked about more in the spiritual world, because quite frankly, I feel like so easily people are building dependence on tools, on different things, instead of truly building access within themselves. And when I honestly think about access, what I think about is, let's say, worst scenario, something happened on the planet and everything was gone. The internet was gone. My iPod was gone. Like I couldn't listen to music. Like, what if it was all gone? Would I still be able to connect to my own guidance? Would I need something outside of myself to do that? And if you have created access within yourself, then that's good, right? Because you don't need anything in the external world to have that. One of the examples I like to use is when I first learned how to meditate. There were all these types of, apps, meditation things that you could do, guided things, music, all this stuff. But what I decided to do is to set an alarm and close my eyes. I didn't want to depend on anything. The alarm helped me to feel calm. So I didn't feel like I was like losing time, because that is probably one of my biggest anxieties. But I wanted to make sure that if I didn't have my phone or I didn't have whatever, that I could still meditate. And I learned how to do it in that raw form, because ultimately what I most wanted to do was I wanted to learn how to tune into myself, how to be quiet within without being led, without any sort of access thing, right? In my own journey towards really coming into an understanding that information wasn't getting me to the places I really wanted to, nor was it necessarily helping me to develop or deepen my relationship with myself and with God, I found the Akashic Records, and they have completely changed my life. You can go back years in my work and listen to how much the Akashic Records have changed my life. Not because they gave me answers, but because they taught me about access. They taught me that guidance isn't something that I occasionally receive. It's a relationship that I cultivate every single day that ties me back to the universe, to all that I am within. And truly, it is one of the most sacred things that I have in my life, which is why I'm so passionate about working with the Akashic Records, utilizing the Akashic Records to understand the world around me, and definitely with teaching the Akashic Records. Because the goal of spirituality isn't about collecting more information. It's about becoming someone that no longer has to search outside of themselves for answers, right? It's all within. Someone who knows like where to turn when life gets really hard, or who can trust the information that they receive that moves through them, right? Someone whose relationship with the divine becomes so natural that guidance becomes part of your everyday. Unless you're like me and you lose your words. I'm honestly so passionate about this. It's hard for me to talk about it. I'm thankful for the notes that I have in front of me today. The point just being, if you've heard me talk about spirituality and the definition of spirituality, it's ultimately about returning home to who you are, returning to the understanding of the divinity that is within, the realization that every single thing that you need is within already, right here. And no matter how much money you have, how big your house is, how great your car is, how amazing your partner is, like any of these things, fulfillment and satisfaction in life can only be found through that reconnection to who we are. And that's what I want for every single one of you. And that is what my work is all about. So today I'd like to invite you to join my waiting list for my 10-week intensive Akashic Record course, Access Your Akashic Soul. If what I'm talking about is of interest to you, if you are wanting to build access within your own life, if you're wanting to build that own connection, understand that the Akashic Records, the way that I view them is that they are the greatest tool for self-empowerment, for unbreakable self-empowerment. And if you want to learn how to incorporate that into your everyday and fully become empowered in who you are, then join the waitlist. We are kicking off October 5th, and seats are limited because this is a very personalized and engaging course. And so if you do want to join, make sure you're on the waiting list, as they will be getting first dibs. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to see you and access your Akashic Soul if you feel guided to do so. But nonetheless, what is most important for me to impart to you today is the importance of building access within your own life, because that is what is going to sustain you. That is what is going to bring you fulfillment. That is what is going to make you wake up and feel confident in your everyday. And because I had the privilege of being born into this lifetime and having a relationship with God, I understand what this is. And the Akashic Records were such a beautiful tool that God introduced me to at such an important time in my life so that I could really lean into my nerdy first line wonderings and have a place to go and to find my soul connections, to find my soul guidance, and ultimately to really learn how to build and cultivate that relationship within. So I hope this has served you. I hope this has benefited you. Please share it with someone else who may be of interest and or in need of this in their own life. Thank you again so much for being here. Don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.